Are you thinking about starting a consulting business, but you have a few questions before you get started? If so, then this episode is for you. We're going to dive into the top questions that I get about starting a consulting business. And I promise you that this is real talk that you haven't heard before. All right, let's get started. Hi, my name is Dr. Angelina Davis, and I'm the host of Black Girls Consult 2 podcast. I am so excited to be answering these questions today because I feel like we very rarely get to tap into some of what is on your mind when it comes to starting a consulting business and actually getting your business off the ground. So I have some common questions that I typically get listed right here. I want to make sure that I don't miss one. I want to answer each and every question that you may have. And I want to start out by one that I think I get probably most often, and that is, how do I figure out what kind of consulting I should do? This is one of the questions that led me to create the lead magnet I typically offer, which is how to sell what you know. One of the challenges when you're starting out in consulting is figuring out what in the world you could sell. And it's because you're so great at what you do, you know too much. And when you have a lot of things that you can do well and you're thinking about starting a business, you don't know exactly what you can pull from to monetize. Also, another thing I found with a lot of clients is that they may not have had the best experiences in their 9 to 5 or along their career journey, and they don't want to, at least they believe, do the same exact thing. So they're looking for something new and something different or something exciting. Also, you may be wondering, how in the world can I do what I normally have done in my career when it takes a whole team in order to carry that work out, and now it's just me? I want you to relax and rest assured that you have everything that you need in order to start this business. And when it comes to thinking about what you should be able to package or what you can sell as a service, what type of consulting you should do, you have to think about what problem you can best solve. So it all starts from, I believe, your strengths and what you find to be the things that you do best. What are those things that light you up? What are the problems that you have been able to solve with ease because you've been through that experience before, you have that knowledge base, or you have lived through that in your career, you understand the many facets that go into achieving a positive result. That is part of the first place that we start. We start with understanding what it takes in order to solve a particular problem and where you actually have your strengths shine. And when you're able to do that, it makes it a little bit more clear as to what you should lean into. So a lot of this just goes back to what you do best, what you love and what you enjoy, also what the market needs. Those are some ways that we can key into the services that you can create. So don't let that worry you at all. All right, now it's time for question number 2. This one I feel is an important one and one that many of us have starting out. How do I get my first clients without relying on friends, family, or word of mouth referrals? Whew, that one is a loaded one. I think the natural inclination is to avoid friends and family or asking for referrals. And I don't think that that comes from a practical solution. If I were to just take the experience that I have gone through myself, as well as experiences of clients, many times this is our way of protecting ourselves from the fear of rejection. And it becomes a battle between you actually wanting to get started and to get business and get this business off the ground quickly, or you wanting to take a longer approach. Now, there is a way for you to land clients without friends, family, or referrals. But that is going to take a bit longer because there are a lot of building blocks that need to be in place in order for you to attract and draw in business from people who don't know you, which we call a cold audience. So in that case, you would need more systems. You need to have your content and your thought leadership and your expertise out in the marketplace. So people are going to be drawn to it. They're going to recognize it. Or you're going to be reaching out to people and cold calling or cold messaging, trying to drum up business. Usually that is a longer approach to take because there are a lot of different obstacles and a lot of different milestones you have to reach in order to be successful that way. So that's one of the reasons why when you're starting out, one of the most common ways of landing clients is to rely on friends, family, and referrals. And that process can be a lot easier than you think because even if your network is very, very small, and even if you're going into business doing something completely different than what you have done in the past, people know a lot of people. We all have connections and friends and relatives and families that have needs. And it is very easy for someone who knows you, who knows the quality of your work, who knows how brilliant you are, to be able to share your information with someone else who would likely use your services. So I know that this is something that we often want to avoid, but when you're starting out, leaning back on those that you know to share your information and your services with others is a wonderful way to get started and one of the fastest ways to get money flowing in your business. That just takes you owning the fact that you now are a consultant, that you now have a business, and then getting that word out to family and friends and other colleagues so that they can share that information with others and bring that business to your front door. Okay, here's one that I love to answer because I feel so strongly about this one. Question number 3 is, do I really need to quit my job to start a consulting business? And you know what I have to say to that? Heck no. You don't have to quit your job to start a consulting business. As a matter of fact, if you are a mid-career professional or if you're someone that has had a very successful career thus far, or if you just have a lot of responsibilities, it is hard for you to walk away from a paying job with benefits and to leave all of that and go into entrepreneurship and try to get everything off the ground and still meet those obligations. I would not recommend that to anyone personally. It's not the path that I took. I know that some people are able to jump all in, but if you don't find yourself in a position where you can easily do that, it's absolutely nothing wrong with you starting your business while you have a 9 to 5 and continuing to build that business until you have the ability and the resources to be able to comfortably leave that 9 to 5. And so that can be done in a very strategic way so that it does not have to cause a lot of stress and overwhelm. I always like to say that businesses don't have to be birthed out of trauma. And I think that many times when people go all in and quit their jobs and they have these responsibilities on their plate, it creates a lot of unnecessary stress and burden. You have the ability to build something that is going to be great and amazing without having to lose that financial security early on. And you can still be successful. It just takes dedication and it takes focus to you building out the dream that you want to have in the business and life that you want to live. Okay, here's a good one. Do I need a website, logo, or social media following before I start? And the answer is no, you do not. You do not need a website in order for you to start a consulting business. That is one of the biggest misconceptions that people have. Oftentimes, the personality types that go into consulting, we're used to being perfectionists. We like to practice in excellence, which I always encourage. And we want to look professional because that's how we have shown up over the years throughout our career. We want to carry that same level of quality and expectation into any business that we create. But having a website and having a social media following and all of these things in place before you start is not going to help you get your business off the ground. What's going to help you get your business off the ground is actually selling the service. And in order to sell your service, you don't have to have a website. You can sell through conversation in meetings. You do not have to spend, and I don't recommend you spend thousands upon thousands of dollars building a website starting out, mainly because you haven't decided exactly what you're going to be doing in the long term. Most often, the service that you start out with when you're starting your business is not the service that you're going to have many years from now, or even a couple of months from now. I always say to give yourself a little bit of time before you develop a full blown out website. And I actually encourage that if you do want to build a website early on, to do what I call a mini site, where you have just the basic minimum available online so that someone knows what your business is, what you do, and you're able to establish your credibility. But don't go into building out a huge website that may be outdated in a matter of months because you decide to change your mind or go in a different direction or pivot. So you don't have to have the website. You don't have to have the big social media following. All those things can honestly be ways that we procrastinate. Put those on the back burner for right now and focus on the service that you're going to offer and being able to tell people about that service and then selling your services and being paid for that. That is going to be the most important part about you getting your business off the ground, not the website. Here's one that I think is something that many people think about and they want to ask, but never feel very comfortable bringing it up. And it is, how much money can I realistically make as a consultant? Like, let me tell you that honestly, sky's the limit. And this is not me just trying to give you an answer that you want to hear, but it honestly is the truth. It depends a lot on the type of services that you offer and how you have your offer structured and, what your pricing model is and whether or not you're working with other consultants and other contractors. There are a lot of things that go into it, but you can grow as big as you would like. However, I will say that as you grow, you start to sacrifice some of your lifestyle. So you have to think about what you want your life to look like and whether or not being able to make that amount of money is going to cause you to sacrifice some aspect of your life or your lifestyle that you don't want to give up. So there has to be a balance, but that balance looks different for everyone. And so whether or not it's your dream or goal to have a 6-figure consulting business or a 7-figure consulting business and beyond, the reality is that you can do either. And I like to stress that because I think so often as women especially, and definitely as women of color and others from marginalized communities, we may limit ourselves and limit our thinking and believe that we don't have access to the level of wealth that others may have access to. And that is just simply not true. It honestly just revolves around how you have your business structured and what your goals are. And I would say that whatever the financial goal may be, if that is a priority, then you want to establish and develop your business in a way so that you are set up to best achieve that goal. Certainly, if you are trying to reach 6 figures or beyond, that is also something that I think is extremely reasonable for you to shoot for. All right, here's number 6. How do I stop feeling like an imposter when I'm just getting started? Whenever we're starting something new, it's hard to feel as if you're the expert because you're just starting out. And starting your consulting business won't be any different. It's just like if you go out and you decide to learn how to play the piano. If you never played the piano before, you're not going to sound great when you're tinkering with the keys. It takes time for you to get good at something new. And starting your consulting business is going to be the same way. But you're not an imposter. An imposter means that you are, in essence, putting yourself out there as somebody you're not. And what you're doing is that you're packaging your strengths. And that's why I like the strengths-based approach, because when you lean into what you do best, then you know your stuff. You know that you've had those experiences and that you can help solve these problems. You're not just tackling a problem that's completely new to you. You are leaning into your gifts, your strengths, your talents, and that keeps you from feeling that way. So it's one of the reasons why I always urge clients, when you're starting out, lean into the things that you know and you do best. When you do that, it helps to reduce those feelings of being an imposter. And it helps you to show up in this space with more confidence that allows you to navigate those early, months or even years where you're just getting to know what it's like to be an entrepreneur and to practice in your space. So you don't need to feel that way. You just need to lean into what you do best. And that's going to keep you at the top of your game and keep you from feeling like an imposter. All right, next question. How do I stand out when there are so many consultants already out there? Look, the market is kind of busy. I will definitely say that, but it doesn't mean that there's not room for you too. The interesting part about consulting is that it is something that is based on what you know, and your knowledge doesn't look the same as someone else. And so it's like you're selling your fingerprint on your industry. It's what you have lived through. It's your philosophy behind the recommendations that you make. It's the unique way that you see the world. It's the way that you solve problems that makes you different. Now, I will say that what helps you to stand out is your ability to be comfortable with being different. Because one of the things that we have become used to, especially if you're coming from a corporate environment, is blending in. We have typically followed the script. We have conformed to expectations and we have been professional in our workspaces. And it's not that you don't be professional any longer, but you are leaning into what professionalism means to you. And that may look vastly different from how you have practiced in the past. So in order for you to stand out, and there's more than enough room for you in the industry to do so, you just have to lean into who you are, how you think, and how that's different, and not be afraid to say it. So when you disagree with how something is being done in your industry, say it. When you see a better way, say it. When you have an innovative and creative idea, say it. That is going to help you stand out in a market that truly is looking for something different. I think there's a misconception that many people are looking for a textbook answer when they are hiring a consultant, when it's far from the truth. Often when someone is hiring consulting services, they've already tried the basic standard approach and they're looking for someone who can show them a new and better way. I think that that can be you. So listen, I know starting a consulting business is not something that you want to jump into blindly, and you may have many, many more questions than we were able to tackle today. But I want you to just know that the beauty of consulting is that you are not selling a product that you have to create. You don't have to make a major investment or get investors in order to get your business off the ground, because there's a lot of groundwork and foundational work that you have to do. This is literally you being able to go into the marketplace and help somebody else solve their problems with the knowledge that you already have. Everything that's up here is worth so much. It's so valuable. And consulting is just a way for you to package that and for you to put it on the market as your product and sell it to someone who's in need. And I believe that if you have the desire to do that and the willingness to do the work and to be open to change and to be open to grow through this process, you're going to be successful doing it. So I hope this helped. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Black Girls Consult 2 podcast. Remember, if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to this channel, share it with a friend. And if you're listening to the audio only version, make sure that you leave your rating and review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And I can't wait to chat with you again soon. All right, take care.